Hello. Hi. I'm wondering if anybody's on. Hi, Janet. Hi, sweetheart. So, this talk is for people who are really serious about relating to one another. It's really a lot of items about being in a serious relationship, but I realize that there's so many of you who are following who are not with someone, but would love to learn how to do that. So, I have this amazing 10 Rules of a Happy Couple from Stan Tatkins. He's amazing. Check him out. He's on YouTube. There's so many great talks from Stan Tatkins. It's TAT, like Tom, KINS. Anyway, I've been listening to him and watching him, and a friend of mine gave me 10 Rules of a Happy Couple, and I loved it. So I wrote it out. If you're interested in having that, you should look it up, or you could just email me at mira@miralovesYou.com and I'll send it to you. Okay. So this is really like for some serious commitment with somebody and really learning how to be present for the other person. So I'm going to start, and then I have all these little innuendos about each rule. So the first one's put the relationship first at all times. So if you want to make a serious commitment with a partner, if you have someone to do that with, then you want to make it number one. You can't kind of use it for a part time conversation or a very seldom commitment. You want to really commit and make it priority if you want a serious relationship. So, the rest of all of these rules are about really being in a serious relationship, but you can use it in your life, I'm sure, with your friends and with people who you love. So, put the relationship first at all times. I often will pick up a phone and say, "How are you? What's happening?" to people when I'm thinking about them. But with my husband, I'm always making it a priority to make sure I'm talking to him, with him, spending time with him. So that's one thing that I think is super important to make it number one. If you want to make it work, you got to really work with it because they're not easy. There's a lot of things to do in a relationship. So, number two is make decisions and do things that are good for you and your partner. So, I find, first of all, it's really important to know what's good for you. And I've been talking about that in the last few talks. We need to figure out how to tune in and find out what's right for ourselves first. Because often we'll compromise and say, sure, sure, I'll do that, but you don't really want to do it. So the first thing is to find out what's really right for you. And then talk to your partner. Does it work for them? And this is a really honest conversation because you might want to go to a trip to Europe. You might want to go to Mexico. Might want to have a child. You might want to get a different job, and it really affects your partner. So a lot of the decision making is being co-created together in a relationship. When we're single, it's just us solo creating our lives. But when we're in a serious partnership, it's co creating. We're constantly checking in with ourselves first and then with our partner to see if it works for both of you. Let me see if I wrote all this. Oh, what's beautiful about this rule also is that when you do things that are good for you and then your partner, you're serving yourself and you're serving them as well, which is lovely because it's often that we are thinking about ourselves, what we want to do, what's going on for us, where we want to go when we're single. But when we're with someone, there's a decision making process where you become partnership, and it's kind of like a bubble. And when you're in the world making decisions and you want to make this work, you're making a lot of decisions together so that you can actually both be happy but have a partnership together. So it's really important. It's a whole different way of thinking when you're single and then when you decide to have a serious relationship. Oh, this is a good one. Don't threaten to break up or leave. This only causes anxiety and mistrust. So when I used to argue with my partner, I would say, you know what, I think I'm going to leave, or I can't do this, or I'm out of here. And what happens for him was that he felt like the relationship wasn't worth it, that I was going to give up on him and us, and that it actually creates mistrust. It creates a feeling of what's happening. I thought we were committed. I thought we were going to work this out. And when I threatened to leave, and that was mostly because of my triggers and my anxiety and mistrust inside myself, which I've talked about before. Often you want to look at what is your trigger. For me, my big wounding was abandonment. So when I felt like he was going to abandon me, I was out of there first. So that's really knowing myself. So you want to first find out what's happening for you before you get into a serious relationship or find out with your partner. And then don't threaten to leave because if you're serious about this and you want to make it work, sticking to it and working through your issues is really, really important because it's worth it. Believe me, it's worth it. Okay, the fourth one is tell your partner things first, especially if they're important. So, when you're looking for a partner, or if you have a partner, they're your person. They're your main person. So, when something's happening for you, or you're making a decision, like we talked before, or you're figuring something out, like how to relate to the situation, it's really important to go to your partner first because you're in it together. Now, it might be your own job, or it might be his job or her job, and it might be about your children. But if you don't go and talk to each other first, then they actually are going to feel left out. So I know a lot of women will come to me or we're hanging out together, a lot of women, and they talk about their partners, their spouses. And I often will say to them, have you talked to them about this first? And the reason why is because you want to bounce off the things that are important in your life with your person. Your person feels trusted, they feel loved, they feel held, and you will feel held by sharing. But you want to go there first and not gossip and talk about the person or try to make decisions without them to other people. And I know women do that. They get really frustrated. I don't know what men do, actually. I have no idea. But they get frustrated. They can't figure something out. They're upset. And they'll go talk to each other. And then they kind of have other opinions and other feelings that actually might be really different than if they went to their significant other, their person. So it's really, really important to go to your person first. Sit and listen. Do this active listening. If you haven't heard that, it was in my last relationship YouTube video. Active listening, listening to what's going on for someone and discussing something that you're trying to make a decision about. It really is like honoring your partner. It's honoring the other person in the bubble of the relationship. Yeah, one thing I actually wrote was that if you can't go to your partner first, there's a problem because it means that it's not easy to discuss issues. And if it's not easy to discuss issues, then there's some kind of break between connecting. So try the active listening first. Go get some help, but it's really important that you're able to bring things up to your partner first and feel like you'll be heard, feel like you'll be listened to, and you can have a beautiful discussion together. If that's not happening, then I would try some major, like, active listening or go get some help. One thing that's really important is if you have a child, that you make decisions and you go to each other first before you go to your child. Now, I know everybody's like, well, I can just talk to my kid about this and tell my husband later. Not a good idea, because you want to waylay triangulation, which is the two of you are partners, you're in it together, and you are parenting a child. It's very, very important that you do not triangulate, which means your child might go to you or might go to them and not have the same agenda. So the two of you, it's very, very important for you to get on the same page and then address the child. It's okay if one of you addresses them, but it's after a discussion with your partner. Actually, that also goes for friends or relatives. You need to be a solid couple, a unit, in order to deal with large relationships like your family, like your child. Okay. To the extent it is possible, always be available to the other. Okay, that's really sweet. So basically, if we get too busy and we get kind of like ships passing through the night, they say that, it's important to stop and connect. It's important to have a meal together. And later on, it talks about, going to sleep together, waking up together. But if you aren't connecting in your life, then your relationship is not number one. It's very easy to become robotic and create your life so that you're just going, 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 and not slowing down and not checking in with your partner. And remember, from number one, putting the relationship first at all times. That is number one. You need a date night. You need time to discuss things. You need to hang out and have coffee in the morning or whatever you do, whatever your ritual is. But it's super important to check in with each other and be available to each other. It's important to create like a really trusting um, relationship where you're always coming together and you're making each other a priority. And when you do that, the magic starts happening. I call it magic. But there's this like synchronicity, and there's a trust with one another that you are their person. You are important enough to um, always be checking in, making sure their day was good. Is there anything upsetting them? Like, really be there for that person. And it gains so much trust and intimacy. All right, this is a really good one. Protect your partner and your relationship in public and private from criticism, embarrassment, and hurt. So, it's one thing to be standing in a crowd or being with a friend or maybe a drunk party and you are shamed. You are hearing negative thoughts from someone else towards you, or you feel like you're being put down or belittled. That's one thing when you're on your own. It's a lot to deal with. But if you have a partner that's near you and hearing this, it's so important to be supporting your partner. Because when you get to know your partner and you get to know their triggers and their vulnerabilities, and you see them being criticized or put down or shamed, the most bonding for a couple is for that person to be holding you in love and in strength and in power so that you are not thrown under a bus or you're not holding that shame by yourself. They can't take the shame away. You're going to have to deal with the shame within yourself. But when that partner is near you and they have your back, that is one of the most amazing experiences in relationship. I have had that happen. And what I can tell you is it builds trust, it builds camaraderie, it builds deep, deep love. And you can do this for a friend as well, by the way. If you're not in relationship, you can do this for a friend. But you can speak up for that person. You can care for them so that they're not holding this shame by themselves. So they're not feeling little in a crowd. So they're not maybe getting too drunk or whatever is happening. I don't know what's happening. But basically, if you have someone there and having your back, it really creates a beautiful camaraderie and connection. So if you can do that, that's amazing for your partner. So one thing is create a ritual around bad times and waking bedtimes and waking up. If possible, go to sleep and wake up together. So that's a difficult thing when you're really busy and you have different jobs or maybe different shifts or whatever. But it does create a synchronicity where you're arising together and going to sleep together. It creates kind of a beautiful flow in your life and your day. I think it's difficult in this time, an age where we're all working so many jobs and we're going to meetings. But if it's possible and you're together, try to go to bed and wake up together and say good morning and good night. All right, so 8 is don't let arguments or hurtful comments linger. I love this one. Instead of ruminating or trying to forget, repair and process immediately. So if I say something to my partner and I know it's off, I just know I need to apologize. I try to do it as soon as possible. And the reason why is it festers inside of us. It actually creates what's it called, a split or a mistrust or hurtful feeling within us. And what we want to do is completely keep a flow together. We want to continue to be together as a partnership. And when it's festering and there's pain and hurt, there's a split between the relationship. So it's very, very important to clean these things up. Make sure you make time to listen to each other. Make sure you make time to apologize and say what you saw, what you did, and you apologize. Excuse me, because it, your goal here is to be rising together and be the best you can together. And when you split or you have a lot of um, miscommunications, it festers within you and it's very, very difficult to stay connected. So try to repair and process it immediately. All right, number 9 is look at your partner with lingering admiration and love often. Be sure to shower them with appreciation, admiration, and gratitude. That's so beautiful. So, one thing you want to know about your partner is what's their love language? What is their love language? Do they love gifts? Do they like to be told how amazing they are? Do they like touch? Look and take the test. There's so many tests on love language because it really works. I listened to the Audible book about love language and the guy who created it, I can't remember his name, but it's so beautiful because if you can give your friend or your partner what they love, how they actually receive love and receive connection, it makes them flower. It makes them feel so good about themselves. So find out what makes them happy and tick and give them that. Because listen, we're really here on the planet to be loving and giving and serving. I mean, I was reading something recently about what the studies are when people are on their deathbed. And you know what they think about is how much they've loved, how much they've told people how much they love, how much they've given, not how much money they did have or how much they've done in their lives, but how much they shared their heart. So by finding out what your friend or your partner is really loving in life, like gifts or touching or beautiful words of gratitude, that makes them flower. And it's you serving them as well as yourself. So find out what that love language is. All right, the last one's know your partner well. Love languages. Know what turns them on, what is motivating, what makes them happy and agreeable. Don't use your knowledge of their triggers of fear to gain influence. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. When you get really close to someone, either it be a sibling, a relative, a partner, you find out what makes them vulnerable, what's their triggers, what they're scared of, possibly what makes them sad. And when we get angry, we do not ever want to throw that in their faces. We never want to um, use that against them. What we want to do is we actually want to make them rise and feel better about themselves. So if you know that your partner doesn't feel good about themselves in an argument or when you're triggered, you don't want to use that against them and say that. You want to tell them how amazing they are all the time. You want to help them be the best person they can be on this planet. You want to make sure that you are helping them rise to be the beautiful person they are. Now, I know that there's arguments and there's challenges, but it's important to be able to actually get through those with active listening or with a therapist or find out ways to actually get through your triggers together and then really help one another be the best they can be. The more you help each other be the best you can be, the more love there is to share, the more gratitude there is for each other, the more connection, the more you feel you're supported in your life and you have someone has your back. Because it's difficult to be in the world alone. It's a lot to be able to support yourself and feel that aloneness in the world. So if you are alone and you're dating or you want to have support, find your friends, ask them to support you. Make sure that you're asking for help. Make sure with your partnership that you are rising together and you're helping one another be the best you can be. Because we are tribes people. We're not meant to be isolated. We co create our existence, we're co creating our happiness. And we're not meant to be alone. We were in the woods, we were in the jungles together, hunter gatherers. We work together. And when you start working like that and thinking like that, either in your partnership or when you're alone and you're with your friends or your family, you want to keep nourishing that, nourishing co creation, nourishing gatherings together, nourishing music together, nourishing your partnership. If someone believes in one thing in their religion and you believe in another, find the common ground and nourish one another with where your common ground is. You want to keep actually thinking about this pure, beautiful being in front of you and rising together, rising this beautiful soul so that they can actually be the best they can and serve others. That's the whole idea of the planet so that we can be the best we can to love one another. Okay, that's it. That was Stan Tatkin with a little bit of Mirror Loves You in it. Does anybody have any questions? I'm just looking at the chat just for a minute. Okay, I love you. Mirror loves you because I do. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I'm going to do 2 more live talks and then I'll be traveling a bit, but I will continue to do videos. All right. Take care. I love you.